Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
How's Hollywood? You famous yet?
Yes, I'm porn star.
Oh, well there was your backup. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about realistic, manageable expectations, like pornography. Anyway, hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Pardue. Joining me today is Rasco of Rasco's Modern Life. Hello, Rasco.
Hi!
Hi! Before we get into the episode, I want you, the listener, to know you can download episodes like Geeky Gentlemen, listen on the go. There's a link in the description. Download this episode. You can download older episodes by request. Just check out the Geeky Gentlemen playlist. Leave a comment on an old episode, and it will be uploaded to the downloading website for your listening pleasure. Okay, Rascal, what are we talking about today?
I forgot the title, but it's a King Kong audio drama.
Yes, it's called Skull Island, The Place of Your Nightmares, a King Kong fan-made audio drama. I guess I'll start on this because I picked this impromptu last week. I'd forgotten to really pre-screen stuff, and I just picked this on the fly because I've been thinking about audio dramas lately, given that I'm making one. And I wanted to, see what was out there in the world of fan-made audio dramas. And there's a lot of Doctor Who ones, but we just did a Doctor Who fan film, so I figured I'd try something else. I saw King Kong, and I'm like, alright, let's give it a shot. I should preface all that by saying, this isn't an audio drama. This is a dramatic reading. This is an audiobook with voices for the characters and the occasional sound effect. But the sound effects aren't like, sound effects in place of dialogue like you would with an audio drama or a film or whatever. The sound effects are just, essentially ambiance for the narration, which is, I don't know, it's just not an audio drama, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, all that being said, this is pretty bad.
Yeah, what I'm about to say is going to be incredibly harsh, but I honestly, I'm just not going to sit here and, bullshit for 30 minutes. I honestly don't really know if I have anything good to say about this. And that, it really sucks. I hate to be incredibly negative to anything that we review on here, but I really, if I was to try and say that, I like this, I would be bullshitting. I love the Peter Jackson King Kong. It's just like a movie. I've seen the movie so many times. I know the movie so well. I love that movie. And it makes me just feel like, what is the point of this?
That's something I wondered too. Just from a fundamental story side, it's not like a new take. It doesn't change the plot at all, except to change the perspective it changes perspective, and it changes the character. But she just acts like Anne does in every sense.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing that changes here. Aside from the happy ending, which I was, God, come on, it's a King Kong thing. It's supposed to be sad.
Yeah, also, I have a lot of things with that ending that I'm just like, what the fuck? So, it's so weird to take a already existing movie and make a story about being in that movie where you essentially just kind of role play the lead of the film in a way. It has this weird problem where it's like in a single moment it will be incredibly inconsistent, where it will say like, I know that this is what happens next in the film, but then also there will be times where where the lead will make a decision that is exactly like what Anne did in the movie. So, like, for example, when she's running from the dinosaur and she hides in the log, and then the T-Rex, like, bites the dinosaur and, like, pulls it out of the log, right? That happens in the movie. And multiple times in this, I forget what the lead's name is, but she'll say something like, Anne did this in the movie, so I did this. But then other times she'll say, in a moment of desperation, I ran into this log. And I'm like, well, no, you didn't. You did that because that's what Anne did in the movie.
It's like this weird thing, and this is why we don't talk about fan fictions on this show, because they take so little effort compared to everything else that there's just like so much bad out there, because all it is someone writing on a computer.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't like awful by fan fiction standards. Like it's, I'll give it that, and that's not a compliment. And you know, I'm with you. I hate being super negative on a thing. And this is why I've tended to screen stuff beforehand. But, like, this isn't bad by fan fiction standards, but fan fiction has done this weird thing where it's, like, created genres because, like, there are some people who write fan fiction who's like, oh, this will somehow make its way to, like, the company that owns the character I'm writing about, and I'll get to, you know, be the next writer attached to this. There are some people who do that. Probably never going to happen. Then there's like people who just do it as a hobby for fun, and so they do things with these characters and stuff that you would literally never see, or if you did, it would be like really tongue-in-cheek, really cheeky, and you probably would see it very rarely at most. And so like a self-insert is like a whole genre in fan fiction. People do this shit, right? But you like, can you name movies or television episodes, books, comics, whatever, where it's like the writer inserting themselves into the story? It happens, but like extremely rarely in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can't even think of an example of where that exactly happens. I can think of things like The Page Master, where like he's in different stories, but even that's different than this.
Grant Morrison made himself the villain of the Animal Man run he did in the comics.
Oh.
That's the closest example that comes to mind for me. But even then, that was like very intentional. It was commenting on the nature of comic books. It wasn't just Grant Morrison having fun in the comic. This is... I don't feel I gain a deeper understanding of King Kong and why it's important to people by listening to this.
I agree. It's very strange. It seems lazy, and I mean, like, that's kind of a loaded thing to say here, but I mean, it is kind of lazy, right? I mean, it's like it's literally just King Kong, and it's weird too because you talk about how it changes perspective, and this is such a weird thing where you really need to stop and think about POV for a second when you're sitting down to write something. You cannot write something like this where the entire time, so for like the first half, it is first person from the perspective of the lead, whatever her name is. And then like at a certain point, it starts cutting back between her and the search party, right? Which is super weird.
That's the weirdest. Yes. Oh my god, that's the worst. Is when like it's sudden. I remember because I looked at this, I was like, "Wait, narrator? Why does it say narrator when it says that the person narrating is the main character? That doesn't make any sense." And then like randomly that kicks in, and it's just so jarring. And I guess this gets back to the other thing. This isn't an audio drama. It's more of an audio book, because you can do that in a book. You can't do it in an audio. You can't do it in an audio drama.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't work, because having a narrator in an audio drama, bad idea. Audio drama, it is supposed to just be, you know, the exact same kind of thing as like an episode of television or whatever. Which, you know, that gets messy, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree. Cutting in a narrator to do stuff with the search party, no, you just shouldn't have had those scenes with the search party.
Yeah, and it's really weird too because that should have existed all the way through, considering a crucial plot point. So there's a point where she says, I know today, when they're traveling to Skull Island, she's like, I know today is the day that Anne and Jack kiss for the first time because we turned around, and in the movie, when they get like the telegraph saying that Carl has a warrant out for his arrest, that's when they turn the boat around, right? Well, if you don't know the movie extremely well, like if you haven't like watched it and like if you don't remember what she's talking about there, what does that mean to you? Why don't we have a scene, if you're willing to break perspective, why don't we have a scene with Carl where that happens?
Yeah, I found that really odd because like I've seen Jackson's Kong, but not, religiously or anything. I completely forgot that they even were able to send the telegram and all that stuff. And that's the thing with this, is it's just like there's so many odd choices and so many what's the word I want here, Rasco? Baffling ideas presented where like
Yeah.
What interested me in audio drama, like, okay, I hate to do it. I had to go, well, this sucks because mine is going to be better, but let me talk about why I ended up making this, or starting up this Green Lantern audio drama, right? We've talked about Green Lantern fan films on here. They are usually awful. On that fan budget, you don't have the amount to be able to pull off those huge, grand moments and stuff. Audio drama, it doesn't matter. Audio drama can be essentially budgetless as far as that kind of thing is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw King Kong audio drama, I was like, oh, that's perfect. That's like perfect for a fan project, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're going to do King Kong fan project, yeah, audio drama would be a great place to do it in because you can have it be as big as you want. This, it's got all the scale that it needs, but at the same time, it's just telling the story of the movie again. And that was so pointless. Like, why would I want to read this or listen to this when I could just watch the movie again?
Yeah, and can I, the thing that bothers me the most about this is, okay, this I'm just gonna get real for a second. Like, the thing that bothers me about this the most is that it really feels like just somebody is putting way too much of their personal preference into this, and that does, and that's I mean something very specific here. So the whole romance with Jimmy is so weird to me. It just screams of, and this is the case. This is literally what happens in the story, but even outside of it, whoever wrote this, it was a person who watched that movie, had a crush on Jimmy, and decided to write themselves into it so that they could write a romance with them and Jimmy.
Yeah.
It's I love Game of Thrones. My favorite character on there is Melisandre. The actress who plays her, Carice Van Houten, is beautiful. That's like if I wrote a Game of Thrones fan fiction or something, and I just put myself in it and then made me and Melisandre hook up. That's so weird to me.
Yeah, and it's weird because Jimmy becomes a more important character in this than he was in the movie, while Jack ends up taking a back seat.
Yeah.
Same with Anne.
Yeah.
All this does, this is the only major change that it makes to Jackson's Kong, and even then it's not really a change. It just supplements Jimmy for Jack.
Yeah.
And Anne for Bree, our original character here. Yeah, and I don't like that. I'm sure there are people who find that interesting, or I'm sure that there's some fun in doing that for yourself in your own time, but, this has had work put into it, this has had actors record lines for it, and this was put out for the public to see, And to see something that's just that blatantly, oh, well, I like this character, so I hooked up with them in my little self-insert thing. And I mean, you know, I'm probably over-assuming things with, like, the calling it a self-insert because the main character has a different name than our actual character, but at the same time, what do we really know about her? There's a lot that's just kind of given to you. It's just like, assume that this is, you know, random female character.
The only thing you know is how she feels about the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you know. The ending is so weird to me. There's no discussion of, well, if I go and, I'm sorry, there's a fire truck driving by. But
It's okay.
it's like, it's so weird to me that there is like no discussion of leaving your family to go live in a fictional reality with your boyfriend. I think there would be a moment where you're like, do I really want to live in the 30s and never see my family again?
Yeah, that's weird. Like, I hadn't even thought of that. I was just so ready for it to be over by that point. You know, right around the time that this, I just decided that there was no way this was gonna be good, and I just would have to get through it. Was when she ended up in the movie, and there was literally the line, every fan fiction I've ever read on the internet says that if you just make it to the end of the movie and don't change the plot too much, everything will be okay, and you'll go back to reality.
Oh,
What the shit with that?
man.
You're referencing fan fictions as the rule for why this is going to be okay. That was just... I just cringed. I had to stop and, like, give myself a minute. That was hard to listen to. There was a lot in here that was really hard to listen to where I had to stop and walk away from it for a little bit. But that was by far the worst of it. Oh my god, I cringed at that point.
Yeah.
That is just like everything about that. It's exposition in a really ham-fisted way. It's just blatantly, stupidly simple. It's ridiculous. Like, wouldn't it be more interesting if we had a character who didn't read fan fictions? Like, that's the thing that makes this seem like it's self-insert. Because, okay, so your main character reads fan fictions about being thrown into movies too. Yeah, like that one was really hard. Then there were other lines in this, like Anne could have Jack and I could have Jimmy. That worked for me. That one made me cringe. And then the worst of it was, I stood at the bow of the ship in the Titanic days, wishing I could have someone to reenact the romantic scene. That was really, really hard to listen to, too. Because, like... Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I agree with everything you're saying. That's all I had to say.
Well, like, that line in particular about the Titanic was when I was like, if I had read this and it had been written by, like, a dude in his 50s or something, I would have gone, this guy has no idea how teenage girls think. But I read that line, and this was written by a teenage girl. And that is just the most teenagey girl thing to think, isn't it? Isn't that just, like, so, like, every stereotype you could possibly have wrapped up into one little ball?
Oh my god, yeah. Oh.
That was just really hard to listen to. And, again, I don't, like, take pleasure in saying this. You know, we're laughing because we had shared experiences of just really, really working to get through it. I don't take pleasure in saying all this negative stuff. My thing is just that I went to... They link their... Or they tell you their fan fiction author name in the description or whatever, or somewhere on the channel, maybe. So I found them on fanfiction.net, and I found this story, and it said it had reviews, so I looked at the reviews. All of them, strikingly positive.
That is absurd.
Like, they're not, huge, lengthy reviews. This is definitely the most attention this thing's gotten, I can tell you. But they were all very, very positive. Like, oh my god, yes, this is great. I can't wait till the next chapter. Oh, keep posting. Yay, yay, yay. Like, that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I feel that negative criticism, I feel like negative and harsh criticism is important to someone who wants to be creative, because when all you get is like the positive side of feedback or whatever, it's really easy to get too comfortable in what you're doing. And it's also important to have negative criticism that is not like negative harsh criticism that is not mean. Like I feel like I'm being mean, but I'm trying really, really hard to just be as honest as I possibly can with how I felt listening to this. And how I felt was that this is someone who, and I'm sure it's a teenager or someone in their early 20s. I felt like this is someone who has not done a lot of thinking and rereading of their own works. A lot of self-reflection on their own things.
Yeah, I mean, even just before you even sit down to write, just basic concept, right? Incredibly strange. Imagine for a moment if you were to make this into a movie, right? You're gonna make a self-insert Peter Jackson King Kong movie. You'd literally be watching the Peter Jackson King Kong movie with a different lead for a majority of this, right? Like,
yeah.
if this was a movie, the whole T-Rex fight literally changed, like, the hair color of Anne. And it's like, that's absurd. I mean, people would just straight up call that stealing. I mean, like, that's how the internet would react, right? People, I mean, like, we're on the internet right now, but in a world where people are incredibly harsh and they'll say whatever they think, if you were to put this out as a film, people would attack you for pretty much just taking Peter Jackson's King Kong and putting yourself in it.
Yeah, and like that's again, this kind of goes to what I was talking about earlier, where like this isn't something you would see outside of fan fictions, and being completely honest, it's not like a genre that makes a lot of sense to me. At least if this is emblematic of what a lot of them are, where it's just the same story, but now you're the main character.
Yeah.
I found that really odd. And then there's a lot of other stuff with just the way this is written. The prose of this is really, really... I don't want to say dull. It's really dull prose. It's in first-person perspective for like 90% of it. But even though you're in first person, use them as little as possible. Just, that gets so repetitive. There's a lot of just very, very repetitive phrases and word uses. There'll be like a sentence where it says a particular word, and then the next sentence it'll use the same word again.
Uh-huh. That's
just bad prose. But, you know, even in first-person perspective, cut down the I's and the me's as much as humanly possible to still make it comprehensive.
Yeah. It's...
So, like, the pro... Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and then what really is weird to me is, like, when things are changed from the movie. So there's two examples to me that stick out as just, like, really weird. The first one is when they get out of their boats and they're like down at like the shore of the island, I guess, and Carl's like, "Okay, girls, scream!" And then they scream, and then Kong responds.
Uh-huh.
That is in the trailer for the movie, but it's not in the movie. Instead, they have what also is in this, which is where when the natives are like, when the natives are attacking them, Anne screams, and then Kong screams, right? So it was kind of like a slightly altered version of the trailer, but they put both of them in here. Why?
Huh.
And then the ending, why is there this like additional part where she goes down to the street level with Jimmy and like gives Kong a kiss and punches a soldier in the face, and that's not in the movie. Why?
Yeah, and like it would be better for the piece itself just to give her that last moment with Jimmy. Like if this had been good, that you probably would have wanted that final scene, but like, the fact that this ends with her and Jimmy getting back together and all that stuff means you don't... That scene becomes completely pointless.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she should have disappeared at the top of the tower. Because, like, alright, let's think about this from Jimmy's perspective, right? Falls in love with a woman gets kidnapped by giant gorilla falls off tower. In one perspective of this movie, Bree disappears at that point and then reappears 9 months later and kisses him on the docks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's a much better ending than monkey falls off tower and comes down, kisses Kong, punches a soldier, kisses Jimmy, tells her she loves him, and then magically disappears literally in his arms for 9 months before coming back.
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, yes, very bizarre.
Because, like, there's this sense of mystery, like, what did Kong do with her? And it's like a believability and stuff. Like, oh, I never quit looking for you. That's why I haven't left New York. Or something like that. But with her just, like, literally vanishing in his arms, that's weird. Jimmy must think he's crazy, right? So there's a lot with that where I'm like, what is going on? Also, on the technical side of things, audio editing here is pretty atrocious. Like, every time Anne speaks, you get like a little half-second warning because you start to hear some static. That's just bad. Audacity's free. Cut out that kind of noise. It's free, it's easy to do. Cut it. Then there's just, like, again, there's stuff where this is not an audio drama. There's, like, very particular moment, and they even leave a note in the description that says, make sure to stay tuned for Chapter 6 for some really cool sound effects. And then there'll be lines like, I screamed really loud. Ah!
Yeah.
And then there was a huge scream from the forest. Roar. Why do you need that? Like, why do you need that? You either don't need the sound effect or you don't need the narration. Cut one.
I really want someone to make a little, like, 6-second long video edit of the King Kong trailer where Anne screams and then Kong screams back, but insert Ian's little roar. Somebody please make that.
Oh my, you might have to do it yourself, Rascal. Oh. At least something came of this.
Or like that scene in Godzilla where he, like, roars, like, right at the camera in the new Godzilla movie, just roar.
We've reached that point of the review. Okay, the one major thing we haven't talked about, and this is, like, where I'm not sure I have an opinion. What did you think of the voice acting from the people besides the main narrator? Because I thought the girl playing Bree did just a really, really bad job voice acting this. She's, like, whispering half the time. She's just got very little emotion to a lot of what she's saying, and it's very dispassionate. And I thought that really, like, it hurt it even more. Like, I already knew it wasn't going to be good, but it's one of those things where you can make something this problematic better just with someone playing it very straight, you know, doing a legit performance on it, and I don't think that worked. But what did you think of the other voice actors?
For one, I thought, so I guess this is a positive. The person voicing Anne, I honestly thought that she was taking clips of audio from the movie and putting them in there. She wasn't, as far as I know. But I thought that for a second. So I was like, well, at least she kind of sounds like Naomi Watts. Okay, that's kind of cool. But I was very let down that the person who voiced Carl sounded like, didn't even try to do like a Jack Black. I don't sound anything like Jack Black, but if I was voicing Carl, I'd be like, Preston, we have a film to make. Skadoosh. Like, something like that. Come on. You gotta try to be Jack Black. And Mr. Hayes, had like the creepiest voice ever. I was really kind of startled by that because Mr. Hayes in the movie, he's got like a very deep kind of soft voice, Jimmy. And in this, it was like well, Jimmy is my boy, and you're gonna give him what I can't. It was very creepy to me. I can't really remember too much else of anybody else's performances. They kind of bled together.
Yeah, I mean, you have Jimmy and you have Jack, but they don't have a ton of lines. And that's the thing is, like, this really, it's almost disappointing that this got voice actors because, again, it's more of an audiobook. There's so little dialogue between the characters that it doesn't really make that much sense.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's probably, like, what is, like, if you were to, like, break this down percentage-wise, it's probably, like, 5% voice acting.
Yeah, I'd say from, like, other voice actors and stuff, out of 2 hours and 11 minutes or whatever, I'd say we maybe have, like, 20 minutes at best of voice acting. And that's just... Because, again, I could get with it if it was just all dialogue. That could be interesting. That could be engaging. Because you couldn't get lost in a performance or whatever. But this is just a bear to struggle through.
Yeah, it's...
I didn't care for, like, the quality of the voice acting was so sparse that it's hard to give a read on if this person did a good performance or if they just did the best they could with this material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also really weird to kind of like, because normally you see like books adapted to movies, but I mean, we actually, never mind, that's bullshit. I shouldn't say that because there's 1,000,001 novelizations. So it's weird to me to literally just listen to a kind of bare bones description of a scene from a movie.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like she took the opportunity to really flesh out the events. Like that whole, like, for one, it feels really rushed once we get to Skull Island.
Yeah.
It feels like it's just at like a breakneck pace, and that's really strange to me. Scenes where like Kong is fighting the V-Rexes, which they are V-Rexes because on the toys they were referred to as V-Rexes and not T-Rexes. That's why it's that in this movie, I'm assuming, which is really weird. But that whole fight, it's like, you were talking about like just like using the same words over and over again. How many times is V-Rex, V-Rex, V-Rexes used in that fight scene?
It gets just exhausting to listen to. It makes your writing dull. It makes it not pop. So that's like, it's not only a problem on the page, but it's especially more of a problem when you're listening to something, right?
Right.
Because then it's more passive, so you can pick up on it easier.
Yeah. And here's just, I'll offer an example of what you could do in that fight scene, right? Because there's three different T-Rexes are attacking Kong. I'm going to call them T-Rexes, not V-Rexes, just because there's no such thing as a fucking V-Rex. When that fight's happening, right? Break it down.
There's no such thing as a Kong either, Rasco.
What are you talking about? There is a Kong. Shut up. So just refer to them as like, just decide, because this is, okay, you can make this up if you, just for the sake of how you're going to present that scene. But I know this to be true. In that scene, they're all like different ages, all the T-Rexes. Like, one of them is a juvenile T-Rex, is what it literally says on the toy box. It's like juvenile V-Rex. And so just make it like the alpha, the juvenile, the mother, something like that, right? Like,
or you know what else you could do? I guarantee you, if you look into it, the fan community around this movie has probably named those V-Rexes.
You're probably fucking right.
And like, it would work better with the premise of what this is, wouldn't it? If she was like, oh my god, it's the V-Rexes, the big one all the fans call blah blah blah, the little one all the fans call Junior. If I guarantee you the fan community has named these characters.
Yeah, it's Ernie, Bernie, and Larry.
Yeah, right? Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde. And it's just stuff like that where I'm like, why didn't you try just a little bit harder? It's just, it reeks of just going with it. it just reeks of, oh, well, I don't really need to describe this. Everyone knows this scene.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't need to do a second draft here. Let me ask you this. How many drafts do you think this story went through?
Oh, this is I really don't think it went through more than one. I mean, that's honestly just I just don't think that this seems like something that someone would have gone through again and reread. I mean, maybe it's just like I feel like it's more understandable if I don't want to I feel like it'd be insulting to assume that they went through this twice.
I mean, I probably would say at least once. Obviously once, but probably say once and then like a quick read through and just change little details here and there.
Yeah, probably.
But nothing like where they actually like sat down and reread it from start to finish and worked on, okay, does this sentence really flow? And that's stuff that like everyone wants to be a writer. People forget you're supposed to do that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like making a draft doesn't mean starting all over again. It means going back through and really questioning every decision you made as you were going through the first time.
Yeah.
And that's just I agree. I don't think that happened very much here. So are we about done with this one, Rasco? Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I don't think so. If we continue to go on, we're just gonna dive down a dark hole of evil, and I don't want to do that.
Gotcha. Okay, Rasco, what do you rate this?
Oh my god. I mean, I honestly do not want to be mean, right? I don't want to be mean, but I said in the beginning, there's nothing I could say. I had nothing good to say about this. Literally nothing. I'm really sorry, but I just feel like because I've said that, I can't give this a score. It's a 0 out of 5. It's 0. It's 0 out of 5 Kongs.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Unfortunately, there's just like there are little flickers where like, okay, maybe that could have been could have been good, but I don't have enough there, or maybe this could have worked on some level, but it just doesn't because it's not there at all. So I have to agree with you. I have to give it a 0 out of 5 teleporting Blu-ray players. That's the MacGuffin. It's just a cord in the back that isn't quite plugged in. Is there like a sequel where she's back with Jimmy and like she just wakes up, she's like, ah shit, gotta wait another 9 months for that cord to magically reappear?
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking. I was like, how does she know she's not gonna wake up or like get pulled out of the movie again?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, okay. Rascal, what are we going to be reviewing next time?
Oh, God. This is not out of character for me, but I have no idea. Give me a second. Oh, God.
Oh, let me just say as we close here, because, again, this video has very few views, and I'm almost certain that the person who made it is watching, at least, or watched at least some of it. This is not meant to be insulting. I hope you don't feel like we are attacking your piece. If you got something out of it, that's great. But if you're going to put stuff out for, larger audiences to see, then you need to really, really consider on a deeper level how hard you're being on yourself with something. Because putting something out like this that is very, very unpolished really does invite the possibility for people to be incredibly negative on it. So that's our review. What do you got, Rasco?
All right. Here's a fan film. It's just called Harley Quinn Fan Film. It was uploaded 4 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. We'll be reviewing that. I mean, I'm sure there's nothing else called Harley Quinn Fan Film. What's the username, Rasco?
Let me click on it really quick. It says Jabroni Pictures.
Oh, good. Okay. Just as long as we got that. Alright, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. Till next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the beta male cuck.
And we're your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.